What have you seen?
The TASK program is a program that is meant to transform food systems for Africa. And Sinopcom is one of the key and strategic partners that is actually implementing some of the activities under this project. And they are doing it with a group of 25 up to 40 organizations at the moment, which is very, very encouraging because these are organizations that have influence. They can influence agroecology as an agenda for Cameroon in so many different ways. So I'm humbled to be part of this process, and I am very much encouraged by the conversations that we've had in this process until today. What is also very encouraging is the efforts that Sinopcom has done, first and foremost to create awareness about the importance of Cameroonian food, which is at the core of the campaign, which is a campaign that is meant to promote some of these traditional or indigenous foods, traditional indigenous seed, so that at the end of the day, the Cameroonian population can be more healthy. They can enjoy some of the traditional foods and maybe grains, whatever the case might be, for the benefit of Cameroonians. Today, what I was particularly encouraged by is the ability of Sinopcom, especially, to mobilize so many organizations to come together in a space that is very free, comfortable for everyone to engage, aligning themselves to the core mandate of Sinopcom, which is really to facilitate and create these opportunities for collaboration. And I just want to give Sinopcom a thumbs up for managing to bring such a diverse group of organizations together. Today, we had organizations that were representing the media thematic area, young people, women and land rights. We even had youth represented by the young volunteers, but also by the ministry itself, to just show the commitment that the Cameroonian government is giving to this very important initiative. And this is something that we are not seeing very often in many of the African countries, because many of these African countries are actually concerned more about food security, but using what we are now realizing is the global way of doing things, where fertilizers, chemicals are really at the core. But with Snopcom and this committee of multiple stakeholders, they are actually pushing people to go back to basics. My food is Cameroonian, my food is African. Meaning that there's so many that the Cameroonian people have to offer around food security, but also going back to our traditions, because we have a lot of indigenous crops that are actually born out of the seed that we have, which have been pushed out of the market or out of the food system by some of these global actors who are really meaning to make money out of Africa. But with this initiative, I can actually see the potential and the massive opportunity that the Cameroonian people have actually managed to tap, and they're actually pushing through this agroecology initiative, which is also very encouraging.
From the experience sharing, what makes a difference with the other countries in Cameroon?
I think what stands out for me personally is that the Cameroonian, just like every other country, by the way, that every other country that is involved with this project, funded by AFSA, they are actually going back to the drawing board, of indigenous knowledge, where they're going back to say, what did we eat traditionally? Because we know that those traditional foods were not causing obesity, they were not causing high blood pressure, they were not causing cancer, and all these other diseases that are now a problem for most of us as Africans. But the sad part of it is that we've lost our identity as Africans because we've taken on to Western food. And what is standing out for me in this experience with Cameroon is the initiatives that this committee led by Sinopcom is actually led to actually open up a restaurant that is actually preparing all these indigenous foods, also serving them in a very friendly environment. That is outstanding. Not many of the people that I've engaged through this evaluation have actually done that. For me, yeah, Cameroon is already way ahead. I know that in some countries they are still mobilizing, for example, chefs to actually introduce these traditional cuisines, to actually market them, but we know it's a process. And I know that with Sinopcom and the restaurant and the food, the indigenous foods that they have in that restaurant, from spices that I've seen, from teas, flowers, you name it, you're already way ahead. Some African countries have gone as far as mobilizing women's groups, for example, to process, to add value to some of these traditional foods. But with Snopcom, I see that they've even created that as an opportunity, as a window for those producers, be they young, old, men, women, to actually bring to the market all these traditional products in a very friendly environment, but also packaged properly to meet some of these international standards. And that for me is also outstanding. What is also outstanding is that they are working very proactively with various government agencies, pushing for agroecology and even pushing for the existing laws that are already agro-friendly to be implemented, to be enforced in the different thematic areas, which is really good because some countries are still struggling to even get agroecology, for example, into the policy of the agriculture policy of the country. But in Cameroon, it seems to be different. So well done for that.
So what next concerning agroecology with Sinopcam and Cameroon?
Keen. And I put this already as a challenge to the president of Sinopcom to say it will be interesting to see what you're going to do to bring more youths on board. Because we know that Africa, in terms of demographic, is the youth bulge. The youth in Africa are the future of every country on the continent, and they are the future of this continent. And there's no way we can push for agroecology leaving those youths behind. So I'm very keen to see what else the president and the team are going to do to push to make sure that women and youth inclusion really, leads this process, because I think that is where agroecology can actually make more mileage and create more value and more successes. Fundamentally, because women are the custodians, for example, of seed. Traditional seed is actually a preserve of women, and we know it from any culture, whether in Zimbabwe, where I come from, or in Cameroon. I know that women play a very important role when it comes to seed, and therefore I'm very keenly interested to see what they're going to do more, making sure that there is effective gender mainstreaming. Women's profile are coming out more, whether today we're discussing even women access to land, because with that land, it might be a different issue. So to what extent can women also control? To what extent can women also use available land, whether it's from their family or even from their own married families, as it were? Because we know with the patriarchal structure of some of our communities, the power resides in the men. So to what extent are they going to be empowered to negotiate for that piece of land so that they can also produce some of those seeds, some of these foods, and really put them on the market? And to what extent are youth going to be interested? We know youth really need quick fixes. They need quick money. They are not patient enough to wait for seasons upon seasons. So I'm also keen to see and to learn what kind of innovations Sinopcom and the stakeholders are going to introduce to make sure there's increased uptake by the youth. And already today we learned that from some of the organizations that are involved with Sinopcom, they're already involved with the youth, from growing, processing, marketing. But it looks to me like marketing is the key driver, because that's where the income is going to come from. So the question is, what is it that they're going to do to produce? And the president was sharing with me over tea or dinner to say there are actually varieties, indigenous varieties, that have got a very quick turnaround time, like legumes, traditional legumes that can actually ripen in a month or two. So that's already a low-hanging fruit as far as I can tell. That maybe if more youths can be encouraged to grow those and quickly get a return on their investment, I think that will go a long way to encourage more youth to be involved. But I think also what is encouraging is that a lot of the youth are already involved on social media platforms, different platforms, whether it's TV or Facebook, Twitter, you name it. And some of the organizations are already doing that. So it will be interesting to see how they're going to grow that footprint of agroecology using those platforms, and also to get more youth to be interested using those platforms as well.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.